you commentated on the Under-21 Euros that
Good
just
final as well.
finished on Saturday. Yeah, great final. England, back-to-back European champions now at that age group, which is pretty special.
Yes,
it doesn't happen.
they've done it once before.
Often. Yeah,
I think
that's
80 or in the 80s.
Yeah, in
I'll
the
say the
80s.
80s, yeah.
But it's quite rare, and we wanted to start with that because one, it's a great trophy. Two, it was a very good tournament overall. I thought France played really well. Spain were good too. We had the Dutch. We had plenty of really promising talents on show.
I like the way you started with France played really well.
I had to, Robbo. You know me.
Not so much in the semi-final, which I did as well.
Oh, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
But first, let's praise England because deserved winner. Will you agree with that?
I think so. They dominated the first half, playing a slightly different game to what they'd played in the previous games. Because I thought, I'm doing the commentary and I'm saying that England will probably dominate possession and Germany will try and play on the counter-attack as they did against France in the semi-final.
Yeah.
And it was the other way around. Germany had quite a bit more possession, but England's counter-attacking in that first half against two central midfield players against three in that central area. But the pace in which England counter-attacked and the precision with their passing at the end of it, Harvey Elliott obviously doing brilliantly, Hutchinson with his goal as well.
Yeah.
But they looked so dominant in that first half. But it all changed in the second half when Germany started to come back into it.
Yeah, and I mean, the Germans were good. We said it. They've got a good generation coming through with Voldemade and others. We'll talk about them in a little bit. In a way, I thought at 2-2 the game had turned and the momentum has switched and that Germany would go in extra time and win that. Were you surprised that it was not the case and that England actually...
Well, I was surprised what Carsley did because he took off his centre forward.
Yeah.
So you're thinking, why is he taking off the centre forward? But what he did, he played with two sort of false number 9s, so they overloaded the midfield, so they got more control of the game.
Yeah.
Harvey Elliott came in from the right-hand side. I think Norton Cuffy was brought on as a sub and went to the right-hand side. And McAtee dropped that little bit deeper. So England had a little bit more possession than they'd had in any other stage of the game, but without any penetration. So I'm thinking, well, how are they going to go and win the game? And it obviously happened in extra time where the ball just whipped into the box and the substitute row came on and it's a good header. But that last extra time, Germany made a mistake because they were going to get crosses into the box. The one player who was going to win balls in the air was Viper and he'd been taken off.
Yeah.
So that was disappointing for them.
I think that was a really strange call. From a coach, I think that for the tournament has had highs and lows. I mean, even against France when they took the lead in that semi-final, then after that, they didn't look like anywhere near as good as the way they started the game. And I'm not sure about his game management.
No. And I would say when they were 2-0 up against France, I'm doing the game. I'm thinking France looked to have the better players.
Yeah.
They looked to have more pace. They looked to have more energy. They seemed to control the ball, and Germany are just playing on scraps, really.
Absolutely.
But it worked for them in the game.
Yeah. Just a word on Harvey Elliott. You mentioned it. I mean, man of the tournament for me. I don't know if he got player of the tournament.
He did get player of the tournament. Yeah, he did.
It's not so much the goal that he scored. And to be fair, I thought he might be even a bit too old to play that tournament. Probably too good even to be part of that tournament, really, when you think about it. But he delivered, right? The goals in the final, in the semi-finals, and in the quarterfinals. He was just the leader that England wanted him or needed him to be.
Yeah. And he showed that he can, as you said, it wasn't just goals. He was playing on the right-hand side, but tucked in to be an inside right, I would say, to allow the fullback, Livramento, who played well down the right-hand side. He could pick passes out. He played a couple of lovely balls in the final with his left foot, coming infield and finding McAtee on a run. I think that was for the second goal.
For the second goal.
And he worked hard as well. So he showed all his quality. But you still have to say, is he as good as the best players who play in that position in the top teams in the Premier League? At the moment, probably not.
That's a good question. And when we would talk about his future and what he should do right now, because I think at Liverpool, as much as he probably loved that club and would love to do well there and play, there's no room for him, right?
You've got to play.
He needs to lead, right?
Yeah. And with Wirtz going there as well, it makes another player that's in front of him.
Just before we wrap up on this segment, a word on Lee Carsley, who obviously had this little stint with England and seemed to be doing well, and then seems that he didn't want the job anymore, and now he's back with the Under-21, where he clearly feels very happy to work with these young players. I mean, back-to-back Under-21.
What I would say from watching them play, and I have never seen him on the training field, so I don't know, but having seen his team play and the way they came out from the back on several occasions, the way they played with penetration, what he gets out the players, he looks to be a very good coach.
Yeah.
And there's one reason why he probably will never be the England manager, and he doesn't want to be the England manager. He's not very good with the press. And that's it. So Gareth Southgate wasn't a great coach, but was good with the press.
Yeah.
Lee Carsley is the opposite. And I think Lee Carsley is doing a great job where he is at the moment.
Yeah. Let's keep the chat on Carsley, because I think it's quite fascinating, because clearly we saw with England, whether he liked it or not, the environment, the press, all the press conferences, that he did really well the game against Ireland, remember, where they played really lovely football.
Yeah. He got Jack Grealish playing in the number 10 position rather than playing out wide.
Absolutely.
And he had his best game for England and the best game for a long time, Jack Grealish in that game.
Then he got a bit more difficult, and there was the game against Greece and all of that. But anyway, you clearly, as you said, there is a good coach in there. We can see that anyway. He can't stay at this level for. I mean, if he wants to, of course he can. I'm just saying that. I'm not saying that this is not a good job. It's a good job, but surely he would be ambitious enough to think, okay, I can get a job in the Premier League. Could this not fear of the media, but the fact that he doesn't really like talking to the media and like that kind of pressure, be a problem for his own career? Or will he have to deal with it?
Yeah, because unfortunately now, because of the way TV want interviews with managers and everything the manager says is analysed, if you're not very good with the press, you'll get crucified very quickly. Yeah. And in the Premier League, you have to be on the telly all the time.
Yeah,
you have to give press interviews here. You're going to have to do everything. You have to like the press, and he doesn't. So it might be, I'm sure it'd be the same abroad, but it might not be. He might not be under so much pressure, and the difference in language might just help him out slightly. Absolutely. But I'm sure he's a very, very good coach. We've seen that over the last few years of him with the under-21s. We saw it in that little spell with England. He made a mistake in the big game when he changed the system completely and overthought it. But I think he's a manager that should develop and should go on and do something much more than he's doing at the moment.
His name is rarely mentioned. So, for example, I don't know, like let's say Brentford, they lose Thomas Frank, they go and replace him. His name is not really mentioned. And maybe he's been interviewed with him, or maybe turned it down, or maybe he was not interested. I don't know. But I still find it strange that he's Irish, English, whatever you want, but he's still there, and yet it doesn't seem that.
But the same thing as we're talking about. We don't really know much about him, do we? As a person, I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure how he talks. I mean, I've heard one or two, but I'm not sure how he would come across in an interview, how he would sell himself. You just mentioned Thomas Frank. Thomas Frank speaks really well, and he's a Scandinavian coming into to England, but he speaks really well, and people take notice of him.
Yeah, that's true.
Would Lee Carsley have that same sort of persona?
It's a good point, and maybe he prefers be a bit in the shadow than being on the. In the spotlight.
You can still earn very good money being a head coach with a manager above you. That's probably what he would want. He would want somebody who would be he would have been a great foil for Gareth Southgate, because Gareth Southgate is good with the press and knows what to say to the press without being, I don't think, a great coach. Lee Carsley would have been a great foil for him.
Yeah, together they could have worked really well. I mean, Carsley inspired this team. We said the setup, apart from maybe a game or some moments in games in the group stages where it was not all perfect, but they were still very impressive overall against Spain. They played really well, and in a game that was not easy. And as we said, Harvey Elliott, star of the tournament. So he was named player of the tournament. So I dug out for you, Stu, the former under-21 Euros player of the tournament, just for you to have an idea. In 2023, when England already won it, as we said, back-to-back, Anthony Gordon won that award. Before him, Fabio Vieira with Portugal in 2021, who's now Arsenal, who's on loan at Porto. Fabian Ruiz won it in 2019. Dani Ceballos, you remembered him?
Yes, because I went to the final in Poland when they played against Germany.
Yeah, 2017.
And Spain were a very good side, and the midfield dominated the game. And Fabian Ruiz was playing in that as well.
Yeah, as well already. And Ceballos looked so good in that tournament, I remember.
His ability and manipulating of the ball
was
fantastic.
Everything, carrying the ball. William Carvalho before, Thiago Alcantara won it, Juan Mata. You've got a few not strange names, but names that maybe didn't have the career that we thought. Marcus Berg in 2009 with Sweden. Royston Drenthe with the Netherlands in 2007, remember him? Yeah. Then you had Huntelaar, Gilardino, Peter Cech, Andrea Pirlo, Cannavaro, Figo, Schrucker, Laurent Blanc.
They're quite good names, really, aren't they?
Usually at that level, when you are a name like that. And Harvey Elliott is great talent.
He certainly is.
But he needs to leave Liverpool, as we said earlier.
Yeah, because he's not going to get in the team unless Salah is injured.
Yeah.
If there was a role behind the main striker, he thought, I could get in. Well, Florian Wirtz has just been signed, so he's going to take that.
That's for him, yeah.
That's for him. Could he play on the other side? But they've got players who can play on that other side as well that are more dynamic. I think that's the one problem that Harvey Elliott's got. He's probably not quite dynamic enough.
Yeah, okay.
He's got a lovely left foot. He can go past people, but he's not got blistering pace.
Yeah.
And that's probably what modern attacking players, to be the world's best, you have to have that blistering pace.
What's his best position, do you think? Yeah.
I would think
he be from that right-hand side coming inside?
I would say he could develop as, if you were playing a midfield three, he could almost play, there would be a holding midfield player, and if he played on the right-hand side of a midfield three,
yeah,
and he could use his left foot to come in field. He could mix it up with Salah and go outside of Salah if he needed to, and they could work with the right back as well. That would be his best position. That's what he's got to develop, because I don't think he's an out-and-out winger, and I don't think he's an out-and-out centre forward. And I don't think he's an out-and-out number 10. So there's a little role that he's got to find for himself, and that would be where I would say.
I thought James McAtee, who's the captain, we see him with the trophy, did really well on the back of a good end of the season with City. Again, I'm not sure what his future will have for him.
The same,
but he has to leave City, right?
He has to leave City. The same question I asked about Harvey Elliott, I ask about McAtee. I see him as a very good technician, very much like Bernardo Silva.
Yeah.
But has he got that dynamism to go to the next level? That burst past players and go past them and smash the ball in the back of it. He's a very good technical player.
Yeah.
But I still don't think he's got dynamic enough to make the most of that technical ability.
Yeah, I hear you. Who else in that team impressed you? I mean, we mentioned Livramento already, who's, again, for me, clearly too good for this level. Almost should not be allowed to play in this level. He's an England international for me, as in A team.
Well, Anderson, the Nottingham. I mean, people say, well, is he good enough technically? He's what you want from an all-action midfield player. He's got dynamism, where he can get up and down the pitch.
Yeah.
He can defend with great tenacity. He can run with the ball. He can find his passes. He's the all-round midfield player. I get annoyed when I hear midfield players saying, well, he's a holding midfield player and he's a playmaker. A midfield player, the reason you play midfield is because you should be able to do both sides of the game.
Absolutely.
That's why you're a midfield player.
Yeah.
And he can certainly do both sides of the game.
I felt his season with Forest was great and probably underrated. I don't think people talked enough about him in that Forest team, and I thought he was the same in this tournament. Alex Scott is a lovely player next to him, but I thought Anderson just ran that midfield from start to finish. And Germany had a good midfield. Martel is a good player.
Yes.
We mentioned Nebel earlier together before the start of the show. They had
decent, the other midfield player,
and they were good. Yeah. But I thought Anderson was just on another level through the whole tournament.
Yeah. And he kept on going, and you thought he's going to tire in a minute, but he didn't do so. So, he was I thought, outstanding as well.
Anybody else that you want to highlight, maybe?
Last season, the very first game of last season, when Arne Slot took over, Quansah got taken off at Ipswich because he didn't win enough of his aerial duels and his battles. I presume the lap was playing for Ipswich.
Yeah, that's right, probably.
So he took him off at half time, and you thought, it's not going to be great.
And then never really got back in. Yeah.
But in the tournament, he looked good.
Yeah,
he came out from the back with the ball on occasions, when there was space in front of him, driving forward. He made a couple of interceptions in the front and ran 60 yards with the ball, and nobody got anywhere near him. So he looks to have got his confidence back, and I'm glad about that, because I think he's a very good player. But he's also got to make sure that he does the physical side of the game. If you're a centre half, you've got to win your aerial challenges. You've got to make your tackles.
Is it good for him to go to the Bundesliga then, because of the way the league is more open maybe than in the Premier League, where he will have to be very good in the duels, but it's not the same configuration than in England?
No, I think he'll have a bit more time, and you can make the odd mistake in the Bundesliga in Germany, without being completely punished for it, and it being highlighted over and over again. Yeah. I think it would be a good move for him. Yeah.
Also, a little word on Charlie Cresswell and Jonathan Rowe, who I think Cresswell was really good through the whole tournament. He's developed well in France. I just wanted to mention them because they obviously play in Ligue 1, and I think there's something good as well from this team, because some players are playing in the Premier League, no problem. Others are in the Championship, but pretty much all of the starters are starting for their club. Okay, Elliott and McAtee are slightly different, but for the others, Hutchinson, we mentioned, very good. Even Jay Stanfield, who had a great season in Ligue 1 with Birmingham. But Cresswell for Toulouse in France, and Jonathan Rowe with Marseille, who's maybe not didn't do as well as Cresswell, but the way they move the broads and...
But isn't it a feature now of English players, young English players? Can't get in teams, like Chelsea and all these, and they're going abroad. And now they're doing well in France. They're doing well in Germany. It's been excellent for English young players.
I agree. A word on Germany. We mentioned Nick Woltemade, who's almost the last 6 months of the season, the revelation of the Bundesliga with Stuttgart, and such an unusual player because he's 2 meters high and still has great technique.
Well, that's right. He had great technique. And in the semi-final and the final, his play with his back to goal was fantastic. He's manipulating of the ball and holding off challenges. The one disappointment in the tournament, I would say, is in that last 20, 25 minutes of extra time, crosses were coming into the box. He didn't win one cross in the box, and he's 6'7".
So you know what? It's really interesting you said that. For a lot of the tournament, I felt that he was not afraid. Maybe afraid is the wrong word, but he didn't want to go into the challenge.
No, it was almost as I'm a player that likes to play technical football, and I'm not going to just be a 6'7" bloke who wins balls in the air. You know, Viper won a couple of balls in there, scored a brilliant goal. Yeah. So I'm thinking, you know, Germany now getting it out to Nebel, who's going to get crosses into the box. By that time, they've got Knauf on the right-hand side. They're going to get crosses in, comes back to the foot, get crosses in like England did for their goal. Where's Voltemada? You know, he's 6'7". Yeah, he's the biggest player on the field. And he didn't. He in the semi-final, he missed a couple against France where there were free headers when he headed past the post. And it was just a surprise to me that he never won one ball in the air when it came into the box. Yeah,
there were times where I thought if you ruffle him a little bit, rough him up a little bit, he won't like that, and he's not ready for that yet. And maybe this would come because again, until December, he didn't even play with Stuttgart. No. He didn't even put him in the Champions League squads at the start of the season because he was nowhere near ready for first team football or for Champions League football. So it's clearly he was very good as a youngster under 17, under 19. I don't know if you used to commentate on him maybe, but I remember seeing him with the under 19 where he was outstanding. And then clearly that step up from under 19 to professional first team football was a bit difficult for him. But the last 6 months, great, and clearly still a lot of room for improvement. I'm not sure he's ready for Bayern just yet. It seems like Bayern are ready to spend the cash on him.
It's a difficult place to go, Bayern. You know, you've got to be at your very best and top of your game. You know, we saw Tell there, who couldn't really get in the team, and then when he did have his chances, he lost confidence because he was better in the first couple of games of the season than he was later on when he should have been getting better, but wasn't getting the chances. So when he came on, he didn't play well at all. No, that's why he's gone.
So Voltemada, Viper, Nebel,
I think I was. Because I didn't do all Germany's games, but I did the semi-final and the final. Yeah. And the first 20, 25 minutes, I think, who's this Nebel? He's not got on the ball. He's not done anything. And then suddenly, he was getting on the ball and taking it past people, he could chop it onto his right foot and get crosses, chop it onto his left foot and get the cross. It was his great cross for the Viper. Yeah. So he looked a good player to me. Yeah. When they were struggling to get the equaliser, he was the player that I thought if he gets on the ball and
we make something happen.
He makes something happen.
Yeah, I agree with you. We mentioned Martel already, the captain in midfield. They had the two fullbacks who I thought Collins and Brown. Really interesting too. Atubello in goal is a Bundesliga starter. There's no problem. So good generation from the Germans, good generation from England. The French didn't do too badly considering they didn't have Cherki or Akliouche or some of the top players because they were busy with other things to do. Which this is the only thing, just to finish on the U21s. Please, FIFA, just make it a FIFA date. So all the top players could go if they are called up because it was a good tournament, really good tournament. But I hated the fact that the lab wasn't there, that Cherki wasn't there, that we missed out on some really talented
and over the years, that's been the problem with under 21 football. You're never quite sure who's playing in it. Yeah, you know,
and that's a shame.
And even England win it, but they had a lot more players they could have played that are playing elsewhere in the world.
Right, Stu, enough under 21 Euros. What about some cricket?
Let's go, Jules.
PSG destroyed Inter Miami 4-0 in the Club World Cup on Sunday. Stu, were you impressed by what you saw?
In the first half, very impressed. I mean, they looked a magnificent side, didn't they? Yeah. Against, it's Inter Miami, of course.
I agree.
But their football was superb. Their athleticism was superb. They won the ball back in good areas. Yeah. There was everything about their football showed why they are the European champions. They were magnificent in that first half, and only when they made substitutions and just went slightly off the ball, they let Inter back into it.
Dembele coming back after 24 days, he got injured with France. That was good. Yes. Came on for the last half hour. Yeah. So doing all of that, what you said, and I thought that midfield again, Ruiz, Vitinha, Neves, the rotation between them, and
Ruiz seems to be making more forward runs than I've ever seen him make before. And the timing of them seems to be absolutely.
And when one drops, the other one goes. When one goes, the other one drops. There's always that kind of movement, which must be to defend against. Must be so horrible. There's one moment where it might be Hakimi is about to put the ball in the box, and 3 of them had run in, making those diagonal runs into the box. It's wonderful to watch. And as a PSG fan, obviously, very happy. But yeah, for Inter Miami, I just don't think they could have ever been able to compete with PSG.
No. And talking about Inter Miami, Lionel Messi, he tried his best, didn't he?
He did,
particularly in the second half. But
yeah.
Can he do it on his own at this level anymore?
No, but yesterday somebody asked a good question. Could he still do it in Europe, do you think? Because he turned 38 on Tuesday last week. There were moments in his game where he was just not there and clearly could not be at that level again. But there's still moments of genius.
Yeah.
When that ball for Suarez, one touch over the defense, those kind of moments.
But he's got to play in a very good team.
Yeah,
he's got to play in a team that's dominating the game because he makes no effort to sort of close the ball down.
Yeah, there's none of that.
So you've got to play him almost as
absolutely. And when you have Suarez in your team as well, who is also 38 but in a worse shape than Messi. Messi is still fit. Yeah. Suarez doesn't look fit to me.
It proved, and Busquets and Jordi
Alba, they struggle.
You still have to run. You still have to be an athlete to play football. And if you can't do that anymore, it's a struggle.
Isn't what PSG also showed this season, Stuart, certainly the second half of the season, is that if you don't attack together and defend all together, that nobody is just exempt from running or tracking back or pressing or defending. At that level, you can't.
If your forwards don't press the ball, the midfield can't press the ball. They have to then play with drawn role and say, okay, we'll have to contain the opposition and shuffle across the field. We can't go and press the ball.
Yeah.
But when everybody's doing it, you've got a good team, and that's where it starts.
Absolutely, I agree. Chelsea also booked their place in the quarterfinals of the Club World Cup, Robo, after quite a crazy scenario against Benfica on Saturday.
Yeah, it all seemed to be going well. Reece James scored a lovely free kick. He meant that. The goalkeeper was very smart. Starting to read the cross. And then after 85 minutes, as it did last year when I was in Charlotte to do a pre-season friendly, the thunderstorms and the lightning comes, the game gets stopped. And they go off the field and they have to get all the crowd out. And they have to wait so long. And then I think there was some more.
Yeah, 2 hours.
2 hours they were off.
Because every time there's another thunder, they
have to wait
another half hour.
Yes, they have to add another half an hour. And I mean, it's ridiculous. And I think Jurgen Klopp, we're going to talk about it later on. I think he's spoken about it, and one or two other people.
Maresca was not happy. He said, this is not football.
How can you play the World Cup there if you're going to have these breaks? You've got to pick and choose the places. And everybody knows these thunderstorms are coming. That's the whole thing. Yeah. When we were in Charlotte last year, it said, at 8:30, it will come. And it did. And it will come again at 9 o'clock. And we were back on and off. It's ridiculous.
It's crazy. I mean, Chelsea, good for Chelsea. I thought they played well against Benfica. Benfica a bit disappointing. Chelsea...
Oh, it was one-sided,
quality,
wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, some good goals, some good passing.
We dragged into extra time after this interruption and the penalty.
It was a strange penalty as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, we don't like those penalties that are given, Malo Gusto.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like what Chelsea are doing, and we will talk later about the new signings as well.
We have to say farewell to Angel Di Maria. His last game for a European team.
Yeah, 18 years. I know, 18 years he's spent in Europe. He's going to go back to Argentina and play for Rosario, who are his hometown and on top of the Argentine league right now. So they've been waiting, I think, for a trophy for 37 years, I think, or something like that. So if he was to go home and win back the title for Rosario after all that time, it would be an amazing fairy tale for Angel Di Maria. But what a player, really. What an incredible. I think
I first saw
very
him,
underrated at times.
Oh, yeah. I first saw him playing in the Under-20 World Cup. I think it was in Canada on artificial surfaces. Aguero was the centre forward.
Yeah.
Angel Di Maria played on the left-hand side. At the front, I forget who played on the right-hand side. And Argentina won the tournament. And Angel Di Maria was magnificent. Yeah. And that's what my first sighting of him. And that's when he came to Europe and we saw how good he was. He played some brilliant clubs. He played some great football.
Amazing.
And a superb technician. And he was a joy to watch at times.
And again, the work ethic that we mentioned before, he had it. I think he had it all. And he was sad. He was crying on the pitch. I think he knew the family was in the stands. He knew this was it. This is the European career was over. He had some great years. And we will still watch him play in Argentina, but it won't be the same. Right, let's have some more quick hits.
Absolutely.
Robo. There's been a lot of debate over Estevao, the young Brazilian winger from Palmeiras, and his level during this Club World Cup. We talked a lot about it. So my question is simple. So you've been a really good young player with a lot of, hype and everything. Where do you stand on the Estevao debate? Do you think he is a bit overrated? Do you think they've paid too much money? Chelsea have paid too much money for him. Do you think he's ready for European football, Premier League football? He looks really like a baby to me.
the problem with at the moment, with a lot of Brazilian players are very, very talented. But their levels, when you judge a player, you've got to judge their average performance. Not just the brilliance that you see every so often, and then don't take any notice of the poor performance. It's the average performance that is what you're going to get. And at the moment, I don't think his average performance is quite good enough to justify that sort of fee. And it is difficult for some of the Brazilian players to come. We saw they eventually might become top-class players.
I know who
you look at Real Madrid. Vinicius Junior took 2 years to really get going. They were having a go at him. Yeah, they were having a go at him, weren't they? And Rodrigo took a little bit of time. They're both very good players now. But there is something about Brazilian players that they are a little bit too individual at times. You want individual brilliance, but they've got to be good team players. And that's been the problem with a lot of Brazilian players that have come over. The mentality hasn't always been correct. And you've got to play within the team environment. You've got to make sure that you work with the other players around. Yeah. So it's a lot of money to pay for a young player that at the moment I don't think is justified.
I see your point. I think also sometimes maybe you underestimate how difficult it is to move from Brazil to Europe. And you can come with your parents, your family, whoever you want. It's still a different climate, environment, football, mentality, language,
expectations.
Expectations.
That's the worst thing,
I agree.
Hendrick at Real Madrid, he's done brilliantly. He's playing in the Brazil team at 16 or whatever he was. And we when we're judging young players, we're looking at Lamine Yamal. Because that is the top player in the world.
Before,
and Kylian when he was only, you're going to have to be very, very good to justify to be as good as those two players that you just mentioned.
I agree.
Now, Bayern have had to battle to beat Flamengo and join PSG in the quarterfinals, Jules. Good performance?
Yeah, I thought overall they deserved to win. Flamengo are a really good team. Really. Felipe Luis, remember him? Who played for Chelsea and Atletico, who's just been a coach like 2 minutes because he finished his career at Flamengo, then coached the under-19s with great success, and then took over the first team after years of instability. I think they had 11 managers in the last 4 years before him, and has done an incredible job. Really, they're doing well in the league and the top of the league in Brazil. They're doing well in the Libertadores, and now they did really well in this tournament, pushing Bayern, who in the end I think are just a little bit too much, especially in key moments. Their press was outstanding, again, which will give us a great quarterfinals against PSG.
Yes,
because two really, really good teams, quite in form as well.
Yeah.
So it should be really interesting. And Harry Kane in that game, Robbo, scored 2 more goals. His 40th and 41st goals of the season in all competitions. He's still super clinical. The second goal, when he doesn't even look up, they recover the ball high. Kimmich gives him the ball on the edge of the box. His head is down, but he knows exactly where the keeper is, where the goal is, where the post is, and hits it after the first touch, right by that near post.
But he's, as you said, he's still clinical. I mean, both the goals were won by Bayern winning the ball back, so he had that little bit of space. He didn't have to do anything to beat anybody.
Yeah.
Because when I've watched him over the last couple of years and at the European Championship
last year,
he's not quite the player he was
fitness-wise
and mobility, and he can't. I don't think he's going to score great individual goals which he did for Spurs, where he's beating 3 or 4 players and smashing it in the top corner.
Yeah.
But his finishing is just as good. His understanding of where the goal was. The first one, it comes on his left foot and he slices across it into the corner. The other one, as you say, he gets it and sees where.
But without even looking.
He just got that great awareness of where the space would be. Because he didn't overly hit it, did he? He
no.
Boom, there it goes,
the precision
goal.
Was great.
And I think, like all good finish, he almost seems to know the weight of the goalkeeper's feet or how he can not save it. And so, he's still a top class finisher. I wouldn't say he's one of the world's best footballers anymore, but he's still one of the world's best finishers.
You would have him in your team, right? As a number 9?
Yes. Yes. To a certain degree. Just about, yes.
Okay.
Lyon have been relegated to Ligue 2 for financial issues. Did you see it coming, Jules?
Yes and no, Robbo, because that news was on Tuesday night, late. In France, we have the DNCG, which is the regulator, if you want, of French football, who look at all the accounts to make sure that people don't overspend or are not too much in debt. And back in November, they see clubs twice a year, in November and in June. And in November, they look at your accounts and say, listen, this is not good or this is good. And if it's not good, you need to sort it out before we see you in June. Otherwise, you'll be in trouble. So they said to John Textor, who obviously owns Lyon and used to own some of Crystal Palace and Botafogo, these accounts are not looking good. You need to sort it out. You are in debt, almost 200 million euros. This can't go on. Otherwise, you'll be in trouble. Yes, no problem. Don't worry. We'll sort it out. We'll put a great plan in front of you. So they went back to see the DNCG with a plan, and they didn't like the plan at all. And the plan, for example, consisted in saying, well, we own Botafogo. We will sell players from Botafogo to Nottingham Forest, and some of that money, we're going to send it to the Lyon bank account. And the DNCG is like, this is not how business works. You just can't. It's not because you own two clubs that you can just switch money from one account to the other. It just doesn't work like this. No. So loads of things like that, to the point that they said, this is not good enough. No. We relegate you. You're going down to the second division. It's been an earthquake in French football, because we've never seen a club like Lyon being relegated in that way for financial issues. Since then, John Textor has kind of been demoted a little bit. Michel Kahn, who owns the women's side of the Lyon Football Club, is now in charge of the men as well. And Lyon are putting a new kind of plan together to appeal against the decision and try to get it overturned. But
at the start of next season, will Lyon be in Liga or Ligue 2?
I think they will find a way of having that decision overturned. Just about. I think just about, and they will be in Ligue 1, but I don't know in what shape, because John Textor has ruined that club. Really ruined that club. And now, I don't know him. He might be a great guy, but what he did at Lyon business-wise, all the wrong decisions that he took, all the mess that he created is the reason why now he had to step down, and why they are currently, right now, for now, in the second division.
It's a shame, because when I first started commentating on Liga football, Lyon were 7 times champions. They were
one of the powerhouses of European football.
Yeah, in the 2000s.
It's so sad. So I really hope they find a way of staying up, because they don't deserve to go down, really. That's just because of John Textor taking them there. And also, Stu, the other thing, I guess, the other consequence that this whole mess has is on Crystal Palace, because as we know, Crystal Palace, who've qualified for the Europa League by winning the FA Cup, but so far haven't been registered yet, because John Textor owned 43% of their shares, while also owning Lyon, who are also in the Europa League next season, because they finished 5th in Ligue 1. Now that John Textor has sold some shares, UEFA have come out and said, okay, we are going to delay that decision to allow Crystal Palace or not to play, because clearly John Textor will have very soon nothing to do anymore with Crystal Palace. Not that he had much to do already before, because he had literally no control or no power on that club at all.
He wanted power, didn't he? He didn't get any.
Didn't get any, even by buying, despite buying 43% of the shares, he only had 25% of the decision making. So that's John Textor. But at least, I guess the positive in all this for Crystal Palace and their fans is that John Textor selling his shares into Crystal Palace, being ousted now of running Lyon as a football club on a daily basis, means that it's very likely, I think, that UEFA will say, okay, we've examined everything, and it looks like there's no ties anymore between Lyon and Crystal Palace, so they can be both in the Europa League next season. And that means Crystal Palace and their fans will be able to enjoy the European campaign, which I think for a while they thought was very much in jeopardy. But now, because John Textor is such a mess, usually, that should not happen. So we will have Crystal Palace very likely and Lyon in the Europa League. Final one, sorry, Stu, on the Club World Cup, because a few voices now have been against it. Jurgen Klopp, the latest one, saying that this was one of the worst ideas ever, and that by November or December we will see a lot of players being injured because they've had no preseason pretty much and playing the Club World Cup. Where do you stand? Can you see his point?
Absolutely, I can see his point. And I talk from my own individual career. So in the early days when I was playing at Arsenal at 17, and it was when you're 17 and you're playing 40 odd games, you're going to get tired. And then I'm picked for the England youth team or the England under 21s, and then the England squad later on. In the summer, there was no respite, and I couldn't recover from the injury. My body was at its full extent come the end of the season, and you're almost wanting the end of the season so I can have a rest, both physically and mentally, get all the injuries, go to a clinic and make sure I can, get them all repaired. But you never had that because you were going on to another tournament. And I know there's more players now. I know there's bigger squads and all that sort of stuff. But there's an overkill of players. There's an overkill of football as well. And I know a lot of people that they'll say to me now, I don't watch that because there's too much football. I'm not interested in that, whatever it may be. Everybody has their different things, but if you have too much football, it's not good for the players, and I don't think it's good for the public either. That's just my view on it.
George Jesus is back in Saudi Arabia, Stu. That's right. This time for Al Nassr, who are the arch rivals of his former club, Al Hilal, who he left not that long ago. I mean, my question is simple, Robbo. Would you have signed for the enemy like he did?
Well, first of all, I say about Jesus. He also did it when he was Benfica manager, went to Sporting. So he's not afraid of doing it.
That's very true. It's not the first time.
Now, would I have signed for the enemy? I very nearly did at one point.
Did you?
Not from Arsenal to
Spurs, yeah.
But I went to West Ham. And I went to Coventry after some bad injuries. And I got a phone call off an agent saying that Terry Venables would like to buy you for...
who was the Spurs manager at the time.
At the time. But I had a very good understanding with Coventry at the time because I had this pelvic injury and I had to get my own treatment at times.
Yeah.
So I turned it down. I should have signed because then they got Bobby Gould as the manager. I didn't like at all Coventry. Yeah. But I had no worries about signing for... Wouldn't be because they were the enemy. No worries. I would have got a lot of stick, of course.
Yeah,
but
sure.
But it wouldn't have worried me. It's once you leave a club.
I like that. And you're right. It's not direct.
It's not direct. I've gone to West Ham. I've gone to Coventry. And Tottenham under Terry Venables would have been a good move at the time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, George Jesus is still quite brave to go from Al Hilal.
He loves it, I think. Yeah, he loved it when he went to Sporting.
And a few months later to Al Nassr.
Because he got a load of abuse when he went to Sporting.
Completely.
He obviously likes that.
Replacing purely there who left.
Now, Jules, it's hard to say at the moment, but you do like your fashion. So can you comment on this new clothing range from FIFA?
I mean, even you reading it, you're probably thinking like, WTF, what is this again? And to be fair, when I read it first, I was just like, really? And there's a lot of things that FIFA do great. Really. I'm not completely against FIFA. There's a lot of FIFA things, that FIFA do that I don't really understand in general. And this is part of it. So FIFA are launching their own clothing range from T-shirts, sweaters, blazers, everything from $55 to $1,000. I suspect for the best item, maybe a suit or something like that.
Who's going to buy it?
So it's FIFA 1904.
I know you're a Giorgio Armani man.
Yeah,
I mean, you're not going to have
even
FIFA
Armani. I'm not buying.
You're not going to have FIFA written on it, are you?
So it's FIFA 1904, which is the year that FIFA was created in Paris by the French. So that would be your kind of logo. So you'll have the FIFA 1904 everywhere. And you're right.
But you spoilt it by saying French. I mean, the fashion industry is in Italy, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
whoa.
Paris is okay. Paris is okay.
Whoa.
But
my
Milan
God, I can't believe
surely
this.
better. Milan is surely better.
Thank you for all the contribution you had to the show. This was your last show. Listen, FIFA, I mean, if you think this is going to bring you more money, because clearly that's the idea, they try to diversify their revenues. I mean, I don't know, but I'm not sure Robbo and I will buy some FIFA 1904 gear. Maybe Gab. Maybe when Gab comes back, he's got a lot of friends at FIFA. Big size. I'm not sure if they do big size or not, but you can always check it out if you're interested. Just not really sure that's the idea from FIFA, really, to start a clothing range. But hey, let's focus on the World Cup next year and all the storms and everything that we mentioned.
Absolutely. Now, Paul Pogba is officially now a Monaco player, Jules. You must be so happy for him.
I am. And as you know, I'm completely biased with when it's come down to Paul Pogba, who's my friend, who I love dearly, and who went through some very difficult time with all the story with his family and childhood friends, and obviously the doping ban, which he put on to himself. So there's no sympathy to have there so much. But I think the tears that he showed when he signed that contract were genuine. I think he was very, very emotional for real, because I think there was a time where he thought he would never play football again. So now for him to get a contract for 2 years, it could have been a year, it could have been 6 months. He would have been so happy in a really good club where he feels like they really wanted him. He would bring his experience to a young team. They would play in the Champions League. They would play in Ligue 1. For him, who's never played in Ligue 1 because he left Le Havre too young. He hadn't played in Ligue 1 yet to go to Manchester United at 16. I think it's a wonderful end of what was a horrendous story for most of the last 3 years or so.
I used to cover Juventus week in, week out. And when he was at his pomp, there was no better midfield player in the world at that particular time. You know, people laugh at me when I said no, when he was at Juventus, he was incredible. He could do everything. And it was such a shame that he didn't reproduce that form at Manchester United.
Yeah,
He did on
absolutely.
certain occasions.
Yeah, I agree.
But that period at Juventus, when he was a young player and he had Pirlo in behind him, Marquisio and the Chilean Vidal in that midfield, he was magnificent.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely.
He was. And I don't know how long it will take him to get back to full fitness, to his level, or how close to his best he can.
What will probably happen with him, because he's been out for a long time, and again, speaking from experience, he will have periods where he'll be good.
Yeah.
But he'll also have periods where he can't quite get around the pitch. He'll have one or two injuries because he hasn't played at a competitive level for long enough. But he will still be a good footballer. You don't lose that.
I really hope. No, that's true. Chelsea are closing on the signing of João Pedro from Brighton, Stewart, for £50 million. Good move?
Depends where you're going to play him. Because
I
don't see him as an out-and-out centre forward. I don't see him as an out-and-out wide player. I see him playing in a sort of. We were talking about Harvey Elliott. About where does he play? He's got all the attributes. He's a good. Whenever I've seen him play for Brighton, I think he's an excellent player. But are Chelsea going down that road again of buying everybody and trying to make things happen, and then they're going to have too many players, and how do they fit them into the team? It's an interesting one. But 50 million. I mean, his record at Brighton is a fair.
Yeah,
his record at Watford was good.
Yeah,
so he's proved he can play. But I think 50 million is a lot of money for him.
I guess it gives you another option, right? As this second striker, probably his best position would be behind a striker, second striker, which is where Cole Palmer's best position probably is.
Of course,
too.
Yeah.
The other day against Benfica, they played without any wingers because Neto and Cucurella were the two wide players. And with just the lap, and then Enzo and Cole Palmer as the two tens behind him. So I guess he could replace Enzo maybe.
And Enzo then drop that little bit deeper.
Maybe. But then I guess it's another option. Yeah, it's great to have many options. You can play in different systems. But I'm not really seeing where he would fit straight away.
Well, that's my first view when I was asked the question. Now, Habib Diarra is on his way to Sunderland, Jules. What kind of player is he? I haven't seen too much of him.
Well, he was a star Strasbourg in what was a very good season for them. They finished 7th in the league. Outstanding player. Sunderland fans, you're getting a really, really good player. Senegalese international who could have played for France. 37 million euros, which is a lot of money. Leeds had an offer at 26 million euros that was rejected by Strasbourg. 37 million made it. So that's around 32 million pounds.
Is it a danger going to a team that have just been promoted and
maybe
are favourites to go back down again?
Maybe.
Will he be able to show his real quality?
At least there's a French coach there in Régis Lebris.
Yeah.
There's a few French players at Sunderland are ready to help him settle in and adapting. I think he's a wonderful box-to-box midfielder. We talked about Pogba. He can do everything. He's got so much energy. He's such a smart player too. I just can't wait. He's still young, and this is his first experience abroad, really. Before that, he's always been in Strasbourg or Mulhouse and that kind of area. So let's see how he does. And you're right, in an environment that he will lose more games than he will win this season. I think we pretty know that. They might stay up, but they will still lose a few. So let's see how well he adapts. But I think he's got all the qualities to play in the Premier League and do well there. So I'm really excited, and I think Sunderland fans should be very excited too. Back to Chelsea, because guess what? Another new signing is coming for a change. Jamie Gittens from Borussia Dortmund for, I think, another £55 million this time.
Yeah, he's a player that, again, I've done a lot of Dortmund over the last couple of years with Derek Ray on the commentary for ESPN. And he's a player that's been in and out. You know, there was a period when Dortmund weren't playing very well, but he was their best player. You think, well, why isn't he playing more often? You know, because he was going past, but he's got plenty of pace. He can dribble, he can shoot, he can play on the left-hand side, coming in from that left-hand side. And there was other days where he was non-existent and made all the wrong decisions. So again, you have to judge him by what his average performance is. And his average performance probably isn't at a level that will say he's going to tear the Premier League, to shreds. So while he's a decent signing, I wouldn't say it's something to get too excited about from a Chelsea point of view.
And then when you get Estevao, that we mentioned, and you've got Madueke, and you've got Neto, okay, there's no Mudryk anymore, or Joao Felix is not going to stay, and he's not the same profile either. That's a lot of wingers that you have. Again, the other day they played without wingers because Neto was kind of like a right wing back, if you want. So I'm not sure where Gittens fits.
So again,
and he has to stay fit as well because he has a few injuries.
Is this the manager making decisions on, or are there people making decisions? Now you've got to fit them into the team.
I don't think Maresca has much to say on who they sign.
So it's always going to be difficult for him.
Yeah.
Now, Aitana Bonmati is out of hospital, Jules, after suffering from meningitis. That's not good, is it?
I know, really sad story, Stu. And to the point that we wondered if she would be able to go to the Women's Euros in Switzerland that starts.
Well, because there was mixed stories. One minute they were saying she would be able to. The next minute she wasn't going to be able to.
So good news is that she's out of hospital. Good news is that she will join the national team squad in Switzerland very soon. The thing we don't know is how long it would take for her to be back to full fitness, if you want, or full health to be able to play football, and when she can play with Spain. First game of that group stage, second game, wait for the knockout stages. Maybe we'll have to see. But at least she's out of hospital, and she's posted that photo on Friday she was in a hotel bed with a perfusion. Is that what we say? Or
transfusion.
Transfusion. Sorry. Yeah. And that didn't look good at all. So we're glad that she's out. We're glad that she feels much better. And hopefully we can see her on the pitch in Switzerland for the Women Euros, because she's the Ballon d'Or winner. She's the best player in the world right now. So
and you want to see the best players in the world.
It would be a real shame if she could not make it. So let's hope and pray that she's okay to play for Spain in that Women's Euros in Switzerland. Salomon Rondon, remember him?
I do remember him, yeah.
Robo, he's back in Europe, this time at Oviedo, who've been newly promoted to La Liga with Santi Cazorla.
Well, he's 5 years younger than Santi Cazorla. So
35 and 40, aren't they?
So he's got every chance of getting in the side. I looked up his record. You know, he's got a good record. He's played for a lot of clubs. I mean, he when you look at the list of clubs he's played for, I think it's about 10, 15. He was at Zenit St. Petersburg for a while, CSKA Moscow. We saw him at Newcastle. West Brom, I think he played the most.
Benitez used to bring him everywhere he used to go.
He's a big centre forward.
Massive.
He was able to hold it up. He had a little bit of power to run down the side of defenders. He was a decent finisher. He was quite good in the air. If he's fully fit, you don't suddenly become a bad player. If he can get himself, up to scratch with fitness, he'll be a good signing.
Yeah, I think so. He was at the Club World Cup and did okay when he was there with his Mexican club. So let's see. And the Santi Cazorla story in Oviedo, for him to bring his team back up after all those years.
Do you remember that horrible injury he had at
He almost had his career finished. They almost amputated him.
The surgery was terrible, wasn't it?
It was an absolute nightmare. So amazing to see him on the pitch. And he's not sure if Cazorla will be there next season in La Liga. It's yet to be decided, but I really hope he is, because he deserves it.
Now, Jules, some pretty remarkable stuff has happened in the Gold Cup quarterfinals.
Oh, sure, of course. I mean, I think the Gold Cup is always great. There's always something happening. So Mexico beat Saudi Arabia, who yes, are in the Gold Cup somehow, been as a guest, to qualify for the semi-final. That's fine. Then we had Canada, who was playing against Guatemala, and you think, okay, this is pretty straightforward. There's no...
Canada who qualified for the World Cup last time.
Yeah, exactly. Jesse Marsh being the head coach now, and Canada being knocked out.
Not all good news then.
Not all good news. and being knocked out on penalties in the quarterfinals. Terrible news. Then we had the US playing Costa Rica, and you think, okay, even without the likes of Pulisic and others, the US should be able to go through. They scrapped through. Same on penalties against Costa Rica. And Honduras also knocked out Panama a couple of days ago. So for everybody who expected Canada, the US, Mexico, and Panama to be in the semifinals, actually only Mexico and the US will be there. The other two are the big surprises in Guatemala and Honduras. So I guess it's wide open. The final should be really Mexico against the USA, and I think that's the final that everybody wants and expects. And
Pochettino needs a result, doesn't he?
Well, massively. He does. Too right. So we'll see. But again, the Gold Cup never disappoints, in my opinion. 6 months after his arrival at Al Nassr, John Duran, remember him from Aston Villa, is on the move again. He will go on loan to Fenerbahce. What's happened? What's going on here?
He's obviously a talented player, very talented player. We saw that Aston Villa. He can score goals. He's got plenty of pace. He can lead the line.
Yeah,
I mean, and he got a massive transfer to Saudi Arabia. But there must be something, and I say this carefully, something wrong with his personality. He doesn't get on with managers, or managers can't find a spot in the team for him, or he doesn't respond well to certain tactics or whatever. Because having spent all that money, and his record isn't bad. I know he got sent off, but his record isn't that bad. It's not as if he hasn't scored any goals for him.
No, that's true.
But something must have gone wrong that they're sending him out on loan somewhere.
After 6 months?
After 6 months. The manager, the coaching staff, the hierarchy, we can't handle him, or he doesn't like them, whatever it is, or the other players can't get on.
But do you think he might have realised that he was maybe too young to go to Saudi Arabia, and the level was not good enough for him, or something like that, and despite all the money.
And we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
But
it's a strange one.
It's a strange one. And then to go to Fenerbahce, which, you know, could he have not come back somewhere else?
Yeah, to England or something.
That's disappointing for him.
Yeah.
Francesco Farioli has a new club already. Is it Porto, Jules?
It is Porto, Stu. Third club in 3 years after Nice and Ajax, where he did a good job in both clubs, to be fair. Ajax were really close of winning the league before crumbling completely.
Bottling it, as some people would say. Bottling it.
Exactly. They were 9 points clear and then ended up losing to PSV Eindhoven with just 5 games to go, something crazy like that. Porto were in the Club World Cup with another manager, Martin Anselmi, who they just appointed back in January.
Yeah.
And yet already they're about to sack him, Andre Villas-Boas, the Porto president, not being happy with Anselmi and what he has done with Porto in the second half of the season, and then in the Club World Cup where they didn't make it past the group stages, which was really disappointing in that Inter Miami group and Palmeiras group. So no more Anselmi, and Farioli at 36 years old in a new club, new country, new league. Let's see how he does. But there was a lot of good things that he did at Nice and Ajax. And this Porto project is a very, very big one because Sporting, as we've said, back-to-back champions. Benfica looking good even without Di Maria, coming on to next season with Bruno Lage. So good luck to Farioli because I think he will need it to do well in that league.